All right, so I think we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you everyone for joining us. I just want to give you a quick heads up that we are recording this session and we'll be posting it to the Staff Council Outreach website for those who aren't able to join us in person today. So just a heads up, it is being recorded. I'd like to welcome everybody for joining us. It's so great to see so many people here. We have 60 people on so far, and I assume a few more will join, but it's great to see so many faces that I recognize. And a lot of faces that I don't. So welcome and thank you guys for joining us. Staff Council is so happy to host a session with one of our own Staff Council representatives, Alex Macmillan, which is so great we have him on Staff Council. Alex is a CU Boulder's farm manager, and he's a wealth of knowledge. So as we move closer to spring and the snow starts melting, I know a lot of us are planning to plant a garden this year, and whether you've done it before or you're brand new to it, I think Alex has a bunch of information that he can share with us. Just a reminder that we do have a lot of people on the call, so please keep yourself muted so that we can all hear Alex. And Alex will have some time at the end of his session for questions. So if you have questions during his presentation, if you could please type them into the chat box. Betty and I will be monitoring the chat box, and we will save all the questions to the end of the presentation, and then we will ask Alex to answer them. So feel free to type them in during his presentation, but we'll save them till the end. I think that is all I have for housekeeping, so I'm going to turn it over to Alex and let him take it away and give us a bunch of information.
All right, well, thank you so much. And again, thanks for everyone for being here. It's great to just be able to talk plants with people. It's definitely something I've missed. So if you're not familiar with who I am and what I do, my name is Alex Macmillan, and I'm the farm manager over at the Village Center. If you've seen the greenhouse that glows purple at night, that's what I manage. I also have a little video to share with you, to show you guys a little bit about what I do, so you guys can see the cool things that we're doing over here at the Village Center greenhouse.
My name is Alex Macmillan, and I'm the farm manager over here at the Village Center. This is my office, and it's pretty awesome. When I get in the morning, one of the first things I'll do is just walk the greenhouse and make sure, does the greenhouse feel right? Is everything running appropriately? Are the crops looking okay? I don't have anything wilting, making sure that everybody's happy. Here at the Village Center greenhouse, we do things a little bit differently than we would at a normal greenhouse. We're right next to the dining center, which gives us the ability to take produce from the farm and literally walk it over to the salad bar. It doesn't get much healthier and fresh than this unless you're living on a farm. There are a lot of great sustainability features here at the new greenhouse. One is we're using aeroponic towers, which recirculates the water so we can serve water, and we're actually using less water than we would to grow lettuce in the field. Another great feature of this greenhouse is how much carbon we're reducing on the roads and in the environment. In your traditional greenhouse, you're running tractors, you're running transportation equipment to get the product to its final destination, and here we're walking it. I'd like to think that this will have an impact on the future of how large establishments produce their own food. I've never been in an establishment where the produce gets consumed and is made within feet of each other. It's kind of unheard of, and I think it's awesome. This greenhouse is equipped with the latest and greatest technology. We use an Argus Titan climate controller, which gives us the ability to monitor the environment not only in our greenhouse, but outside as well. The computer then takes all that data in real time and uses logic-based algorithms to then predict and change the growing conditions in here by turning on the fans or turning on our swamp coolers. It does this in steps that help save us energy and make us greener in the process. As a grower, it really frees up my time to not have to worry about the growing conditions, knowing that my system is going to take care of it. And even if it does go out of whack, it's going to send me alerts on my phone so that I know that there's something wrong with the greenhouse and I can immediately address that problem. Here at the CU greenhouse, we're able to produce more lettuce in the same square footage than we would being able to grow traditionally in a soil or field setting. It's kind of like a forest full of vegetables.
So that's a little bit about me and the greenhouse here at CU, and I hope that gives you just an open door to what we're doing here. And sorry about that. So moving on, I will share my PowerPoint. We can get into today's presentation about seeding. The idea behind this presentation is I know we all have a little bit extra time on our hands and we might want to try something new. So seeding is it's a pretty cheap experience to get into, and it's not as intimidating as it sounds. And I hope that you guys leave this today with a little bit more knowledge about how to do it and some tips and tricks to make yourself a little bit more successful. So again, my name is Macmillan, farm manager here at CU. This is my contact information. So if you have questions about plants, hey, what bug is this? What should I do? Feel free to send me an email. I'm happy to talk about plants. It's what I get paid to do, and it's what I love to do. So at the Village Center greenhouse, we're primarily growing greens for the students' consumption. We don't really do a whole lot of different varieties outside the greens. So we're doing Mizuna, kale, arugula, some field greens. We also play around and experiment with microgreens. And I've actually been doing some edible flowers, which has been pretty cool. And then if you've seen the greenhouse from 36, it glows at night. Our greenhouse is down for operation right now, so that glow is coming back. Hopefully sometime soon you'll see it. And the reason it's purple is we're using all LED lights in there. So they have both red and blue diodes, and when they're on together, it gives you this bright purple glow. It's an interesting experience. When you work in there, we do have special LED like blocking goggles or glasses, but when you come out, everything's a little green for a little while. The lights are so bright they'll actually saturate your cones. It's pretty wild. Anyway, so today we're going to talk about starting from seed. We're going to go over a little bit of garden prep and design, specifically more of how you amend your soils and certain things you want to do to create the most productive garden you can make. We're also going to go over soil and site selection. I also will hit on a little bit of container gardening. I myself don't have a house. I'm an apartment dweller. So we got you covered. If you don't have land, don't worry about it. We're gonna take care of you. And then I also have some new varieties that I've seen for 2021 that I want to share with you all because I was excited about them, and I hope you will be too. So getting into the actual seeding, there's a lot of different companies and organizations where you can buy seeds. These are three of my favorite go-to. I love Johnny's Select Seeds. They're an employee-owned company out of Maine. They do great things. They have a lot of organic and conventional seed. If you need seed, they have it. If you're looking for more organically grown and more traditionally like heirloom type crops, I definitely would look into high mowing seeds. But the other thing I want to just kind of drill in the back of your heads today is get your seeds early, because I was on High Mowing's website and they're already selling out of some of their organic stuff. Johnny's Select Seeds has a pretty robust seed catalog, but one thing to keep in mind is horticulture is technically manufacturing. We just have really long lead times. So it's not that more seeds aren't coming, but once those seeds are out for the season, they're out for the season. So I would definitely, if this is something you want to try, check it out, figure out what you want to grow and make those moves early, because I know they've been pretty swarmed this year with everyone staying in and gardening. And if you want to do it, just make sure you get on it. If you go on Johnny's website and you're browsing for seed, you might see something called Pelleted Seed. And I wanted to bring everyone's attention to just exactly what that is, because you might kind of just discard that and go for your more traditional seed. But there are a couple of key differences between them that I think are useful, especially for the home consumer. The origins of pelleted seeds are more or less to make automated seed machines easier, because seeds come in all different shapes, sizes. Some are long and narrow, some are skinny, and a pelleted seed makes it a uniform size. But what's great about it is it'll also improve germination. So that clay that's coating the seed will it will help pull the moisture closer to the seed, ensuring a more robust germination. Like you'll get more plants versus if you were to use a regular seed. I also find that it's easier to seed. They're all uniform seed. You can see there's like 7 pelleted seeds in the same roughly size as probably 14 or 20 regular size seeds. So they're easier to seed. And the last thing I'll point out is if you're doing basil, traditionally you're going to want to seed 3 to 5 seeds per little transplant. And if you're doing like 72 or 100 of those, counting out 5 seeds at a time can be really challenging. So they make seeds that have that 3 to 5 seeds already in the pellet. So you just drop them in. So something to consider when you're checking for or looking to buy your seeds. So getting into it, it's not that difficult. You really just need your seeds, your soil, and your container that you're going to use. That could be a standard industry tray. It could be a yogurt cup you drilled some holes into. It doesn't really matter as long as we're holding the soil. The other thing is just make sure you keep notes as far as when you're transplanting and the dates that the crops were seeded, along with the type that they are, because for the first couple of weeks, they're all going to look kind of the same. So it's a good idea to keep track of those things. There are some optional equipment that I'm going to go over. You can get a grow light. I definitely recommend a T5 light for a grow light versus the LEDs, just for the purple reason. It's not great to live with. A germination mat or some sort of heat source to help the seedlings germinate. That could be the top of your refrigerator if it's a little bit warm. And then specific germination soil, we'll go over that in a little bit. And then vermiculite is just a top dressing. There are a lot of different horticultural products. There's perlite, peatlight, cocoa, vermiculite. They all do certain things, but vermiculite is the one that you want for seeding. So going to the equipment and talking about the lights, I did want to share with you what I use at home. This is in my living room. It's a wire rack from Home Depot with a 4-bulb 2-foot T5 light on a timer. What's great about this is I not only use this to propagate my succulents and cactus, but I also use it to seed and to overwinter cactus. So I've been out here in Colorado for over 6 years, and I have difficulty overwintering my cactus. They want to stretch, they just need more light. And this is a great way to overwinter your plants and have them be healthy and ready for spring. And I also just want to point out that this sort of equipment is not just used in germination, that there are more options for you to use. I think the second version of this, I'll be putting a 2-bulb light right underneath the rack there. And what that will do is I'll be able to grow my warm crops in the top rack because it'll be a lot hotter with all that light, and I'll be able to grow my cold crops in the bottom. So definitely, if you're looking for a little project, this is a great one. It's pretty simple and pretty basic, but it will help you with your horticultural endeavors. So now that we've got our seeds, we kind of have our equipment set up, I want to talk about planning. You'll see me come back to this a lot. I've found that in horticultural operations, the better that you can plan, the more success you'll have. So just knowing what kind of crops you're growing, you're going to want to grow likes with likes. So cold crops with cold crops, warm crops with warm crops. Sounds pretty easy, but I always get a call from a friend who's trying to do this from seed in the springtime about why the lettuce and the carrots are doing great, but the peppers and tomatoes just aren't doing so well. And it has to do with their young seedling requirements as far as temperatures. The other thing to take note of is just what the percent germination rate is of the crop that you're growing. So lettuce has a really high germination rate, probably over 95% in most of the varieties that I grow. But strawberries, for example, have a really low germination rate of about 30%. So you're going to want to take that into account when you are figuring out how many plants that you're going to need. So for example, I sowed 3 trays of strawberries and ended up with a little less than 1 when it was complete. And that was kind of that was a successful germination. So know that you're not going to get 100% with everything that you grow. So going into the whole planning, I wanted to share with you this planting guideline. So this is actually from CSU. Their extension agency has a great variety of different pamphlets and just helpful guides. This is their vegetable planting guide, but you can see that the requirements for the germination temperature for our cold crops. So if we look at, let's look at carrots, for example, 40 to 90 is our range. And we want to do that with peppers, who are 60 to 90. If we can get up in that high temperatures, we're going to be okay. But most people are just doing this in their house where we have household temperatures. So it can be a little bit difficult. So if you can, that's why I say grow likes with likes. And you may want to consider, if you're going to buy some plants locally anyway, maybe you do your cool crops from seeds. That'll be easy. And you buy in your peppers and tomatoes as transplants. It's entirely up to you, but you can see, a pepper really wants it to be in the mid 80s. I don't know many people who keep their house in the mid 80s year round. So kind of pick your battles because it will affect your success. I would definitely recommend likes with likes. So going on to actual seeding concepts, we want to make sure that we're understanding what we're planting and just sort of the basic, how much germination percentage we're going to get, stuff like that. We also want to make sure that we're using the right material for it. You can always use potting soil mix to start your plants. There's nothing wrong with that, and you will be successful with it. But there is a difference in the soil type, and that's mainly to do with the particle size. You can see the picture here on the right. That transplant has really fine particles. You don't see a lot of like sticks or twigs sticking out versus the potting soil they're transplanting into does. And that will have an effect on how things dry down. And the other thing is the plants will struggle a little bit more pushing their roots through all of that roughage versus having something that's nice and soft that it can spread out with. Another thing I want to point out is this is a great picture of, people always ask, when should you transplant? And the answer to that is if it's in some sort of container, when the roots have hit the bottom, you're safe to transplant. A lot of people like to see sometimes that they circle it, but that's a sign of it being root bound. And I've tested this theory as hard as I can. And I firmly believe once the roots hit the bottom, you can transplant it either outside or to another container. The other thing I want to it's simple stuff, but it's really important. When you're initially watering, especially for seeding, you want to make sure that the media is 100% saturated. And this is also if you're transplanting to it. It's really anytime you're bringing new soil into life and you're putting a plant into it, we want to make sure that we're not just watering it with a hose really quick. We want to make sure that we're actually saturating the profile of the soil, because what will happen is you'll have these dry pockets that they won't get wet and they will continue to stay dry and they will never fully retain moisture, and that will affect the root volume and how healthy your plant is. So super important to always make sure that first watering, you get everything saturated to capacity. That's how you set yourself up for success. So once you've watered your slab or your seeding media, whatever you're using, you want to create what's called a dibble. And if you look back at that guide, you'll see proper soil depth height. It's important to look into that when we're seeding. We want to make sure that we're not planting it too deep, and we want to make sure that it'll sprout in a timely manner. The other thing to note is that not all seeds need to be covered. Some seeds actually need light for germination. So basil and arugula, for example, are a couple of seeds or a couple kind of plants that you wouldn't want to cover with anything. They actually need light in order to trigger that germination process. So definitely make sure you keep those seedling packets and definitely read up on them, because they'll probably share with you some little nitty-gritty details that will play a difference in how they germinate. The other thing that you might want to add, since we're in Colorado, it's pretty dry out here. If you're doing this at home, a humidity dome is definitely recommended. And I would definitely recommend just giving it a little mist daily, just to ensure the humidity is a little bit higher. If you're using some sort of tray that doesn't have holes in it, you still want to have drainage, but you can have a little bit of sitting water in there just to help keep the humidity a little bit higher. You're also going to want to leave these seedlings in a dark, cool place for 24 to 48 hours. You don't have to do this, but this will, it'll help with you kind of like, it's not going to dry down as quickly, and you can kind of take it easy for the first week and not really have to worry about watering if you're not keeping it either under the grow light or out in the sun. They just don't need the light for that time period. So how do you practice this? We've been over the seeding, but I kind of want to share that the seeding process and the way that I grow my microgreens here, it's basically the same thing. So if you're looking to practice right now, I know there's snow outside, and if you're itching to get growing, this is a great way to kind of practice that and familiarize yourself with the media and, you know, the stages of the seedling, well, germination versus young seedling versus when the first true leaf comes out. It's a great way to practice this. But the method that we use here is really simple. So we use these black 10-20 trays. We wash them in between uses. They're great. They have holes in them. Make sure you get the holes. And we use a Pro Mix. It's called Pro Mix BX. And this is you can get it at Home Depot. It's a great all-around potting soil. The one thing I'll note is there aren't any real organic inputs or fertilizers in this. So you will, if you're using this for more mature crops, you will have to apply fertilizer. But I found that with this mix, I don't even have to fertilize it for the time that we're growing microgreens. So it's pretty much the same process as we went over, and the only difference, you don't need to get the microgreen specific seeds. If you just have some lettuce seeds that you want to grow as microgreens on, that's totally fine. It doesn't have to be super specific microgreen mix or anything. And just to share with you what these are, on the left are some snow peas. In the middle, it's red amaranth. On the right is a brassica mix, I believe. And you can kind of see the difference in between each week. So every tray is a different week. So you can see it does take a little while, depending on what we're growing. The amaranth takes about 4 to 5 weeks to get up to size, but snow peas only take about 3 weeks. So if you're looking for a quick crop, snow peas, awesome. The other method we'll talk about is direct seeding. So not everything needs to be a transplant. You can just do it directly into your soil as long as your soil has been prepped and you're ready for it. A couple key things here is that guide that I shared with you guys has the seed spacing. That's super important when we're doing direct seeding, because it's not if we have to move that plant or otherwise take it out, it's not in a container. So we're gonna disrupt those roots and stress out the plant and shock it a little bit if you have to space it out down the line. So correct spacing is really important. Just use like a stick as a guide and space it. The other thing is just to make sure you don't compact the soil when you're watering it in. There are certain types of water nozzles that I'm going to share with you. One is a Dram 1000 red water nozzle, and I'll go over the specifics in a little while, but having a nice soft water nozzle can really help with your gardening, because you're not going to be pushing that soil away when you water it, and that's better for your crop's health. Lastly, if you want to do it a little bit earlier, you can. We can use these things called ground covers to cover the ground and create a microclimate that might be a little bit warmer than the ambient temperature. And I'm going to go over that here. So you can see on the right, there's a couple different ways of doing your ground cover. On the top is your more traditional, they just used a rock and put it over the crop, and that's totally fine. Out in Colorado, I wouldn't recommend this. I would recommend actually digging the soil over the cloth, because the wind we all know the wind gets pretty crazy at times here. But if you do have raised beds already made, you can see in the picture on the bottom, they're just using some clamps. I think that's a great idea. You do want to make sure this is secure, because it will blow away. There are several different kinds of ground cover. They come in different names: Reme, Agribond, Agronet, basically all the same. The fiber composition and chemical composition might differ slightly, but really what I look for in a ground cover is the weight. So you have a mid-weight, a low weight, and a heavy weight. The lightweight stuff is really good. It's good at giving you modest protection from the elements. The one thing that I don't like about the lightweight fabrics is that they can rip easily. They're not as heavy duty. So I would recommend grabbing a mid to a heavyweight woven fiber ground cover. They'll stand up to the wind a little bit more and you'll get more seasons out of them. The other thing that's really great about using a ground cover is we all know that young plants are very tender and can be susceptible to bugs, and it doesn't take a whole lot of them to overwhelm a young plant. So this is a way of putting a physical barrier in between the plants and the outside world as they get established. I'll show you in the next slide. We can also do, in addition to just covering the crops, we can do tunnels. And really the only difference in covering versus the tunnel is the little wire hoop that we install. So these hoops give you a little bit more, you can see there's just more area in next to the plant that's covered. So you're gonna have a larger buffer as far as the air in the, air in the structure. So it's a great cheap way to extend your season. If I were to be using this, one little tip I'll give you is install it before you plant, because you're going to want to try to condition that soil to be a little bit warmer already. The other thing is to make sure that you don't use these past the season extension part, because these will raise the temperature inside where the plants are, so you can hurt your plants if you forget to take it off. The other thing that's great is the heavier cloth ones. They won't protect against baseball-sized hail, but they'll do a good job at protecting your crops against smaller-sized hail. And I've definitely lost crops to hail, and it's a sad feeling. So this is a great way, especially in the springtime, to just kind of have as an extra insurance policy. And this stuff is pretty cheap. But I would recommend the midweight one just because you'll get a couple seasons out of them versus the lightweight ones, which will probably tear because it's just so windy in Colorado. That was my little blurb about seeding, and now we're going to move on to some design and prep stuff. So when we're talking about designing and prepping our garden, one thing that comes to mind is like the logistics of how we're going to do it. And the one thing I've found in horticulture, if you set yourself up to do a chore that's easy, you're going to do it. So for example, the picture on the right here is a soaker hose. If you're not familiar with what a soaker hose is, it's basically a hose that has a whole bunch of perforated holes in it, and the water just seeps out and it will soak the ground that it's on. I like these for a couple of reasons. One, it's really easy to water your plants. Two, we're not getting the plants wet, we're sub-irrigating the plants. So we're not, if there's powdery mildew or some sort of disease when we're overhead irrigating, we could be passing that on to all of our other crops, and this does not. One thing I do want to go over, and I always stress this, and I always change this whenever I go into a new greenhouse tour, is quick connects. So if you're not familiar with what a quick connect is, it's the brass picture down below. And what that does is instead of having to screw on and thread a hose every time, you pull back on the ring and then it just slides out. So you can hook up a hose in 2 seconds versus having to thread it on and, oh crap, now I cross-threaded it and I got to redo it. The one thing I will say is you see there's plastic ones down there. Yeah, don't get those. Those are going to break. You're going to want to get the brass ones and avoid I've seen brass quick connects with a rubber gasket around the male end. You don't want those. These are the ones that you want, are the true brass quick connects. They're about $10 a pop, but never having to have to screw on a hose again is a very empowering feeling. So I would encourage you all to try those out if you haven't yet. So getting into our garden prep, what that means to me is we're talking about soil. So Colorado soil isn't the best to begin with, which is why we definitely recommend making amendments with some sort of compost or manure, or you can also do what's called a green manure. So if you had some area where you wanted to reinvigorate the soil with nitrogen, basically a green manure is you grow a crop specifically to get plowed back under the soil. So legumes are a great example of a good crop that will help fix nitrogen and put more nitrogen back into the soil. The other thing is, even though we use compost yearly, that compost isn't always available to the plant within that first year. It can take time for it to break down. So do kind of mentally just take note of that when you're working on your compost. The other thing to know is the best time of year to do it is in the fall. I definitely would recommend just before you compost, you can actually till in all of your crop debris. So all of the tomato stems and the stuff that you didn't harvest, send that back into the ground. Preferably 6 to 8 inches will give you the best results. Here is another table. This is from CSU again. This is about just exactly how much compost should you incorporate. The one thing I would note is a lot of the composts that are sold in Colorado aren't pure plant-based compost. They're mostly a manure or a biosolid or some sort of salt compost. So just be aware that if you don't know that it's not a plant-based compost, assume it's a manure or a biosolid-based compost. Definitely important, because you can see you don't want to add 3 times as much compost to your area that you're growing in, because that will hurt your plants. So definitely keep at it. And this isn't a once a year thing; it's a once every year kind of thing. But there are also other ways to keep your soil healthy, and we'll touch a base on those. So I do want to talk about garden design. I'm not a garden designer. I'm not a landscape designer. So I like to leave the fun part to you guys. I just want to point out that if you're doing a new landscaping, make sure you're paying attention to where the runoff is going. You don't want to start a new landscaping project that's going to push water towards your foundation. That's probably not going to end up well. And then just make sure you're giving some thought to where you're planting things. You don't want to put your tomatoes on the outside and your carrots on the inside, because then your carrots will never grow. The other thing that I've been trying to push on people is to include flowers in your garden. So one thing that's always in my greenhouse is sweet alyssum. It's a ever blooming annual, and the bugs love it because there's always a source of pollen for there. So if you want to keep your pollinators around, which we do, I definitely recommend having some crops specifically for them. The other thing I'll say about a pollinator crop is I definitely recommend starting a pollinator crop from seed, just because the way the horticultural industry works, they could be plants brokered in from someplace else, and you won't know if those have been sprayed with a pesticide that might be potentially harmful to your pollinators. So sweet alyssum is a great one. Nasturtium is another easy to grow flowering annual that you can use to help with your pollinators. Other cool thing about nasturtium is you can eat the flowers, so you'll be growing edible flowers at the same time, which is kind of cool. So going on to some raised bed gardens, just make sure we're doing it north to south as far as the longitude of the beds go. I really like this setup right here for a couple of reasons. One, the weed management is going to be so easy on this because there's not much soil, and the soil that we do see is for the plants. So when you're designing something, take weeding into consideration. One thing I really like is like the bricks around this. I think that's a great way to control your weeds. But if that's not an option, one thing I wanted to point out is I use white vinegar to spray my weeds. It's something you want to do early in the morning, just to give it that full sun to really bake it in, and it will kill whatever you spray on it. So just know that it's non-discriminatory. So it's definitely something I would recommend doing, maybe a heavy application pre-planting, and then just be very careful with what you do after you've planted, because it will injure your plants on whatever it gets on. But it is a really cheap alternative to using herbicides. I did want to share a couple things that I've been seeing on different raised beds that I really like. You can see the picture on the right, they're using the grid. So they're doing like the square foot garden, whereas the picture on the left isn't. And you can see that there's probably a higher density of plants with people doing it in a more staggered way. So you can see the lettuce is actually staggered so that you can see a couple rows are closer to the edge and then a couple aren't, versus the one on the right isn't. So when you're planning out your garden, just think about how you want to space things, because you might be able to get more plants in if you tweak your spacing or if you stagger it then versus just doing it kind of block by block. So container people, haven't forgotten about you. One thing that I'm going to be changing this year about my container garden is the large pots are going to be going on wheels. I think that's a great idea. Super simple and will help just making life easy because my back's getting old and I don't really like pulling around these huge pots anymore. The other thing is that if you look at the lime tree on the right, they do have some white alyssum growing underneath there. I thought that was really cool. It's a great way you can incorporate it. It doesn't have to be its own container. It's a great way you can incorporate it into other things and kind of give it a more natural look. Following up with container stuff, one thing that I've also been doing is using what's called water storing crystals. So this will really help with just the amount of time in between waterings. It'll help extend that for you. And I've noticed that stuff in pots usually dries down quicker than stuff in the ground or having a raised bed. So this is a really simple product that you can add to your soil before you transplant, and it will transition into just more leeway for you. So definitely check this out if you haven't before. One thing to know is you do need to incorporate this prior to transplanting. So there is a little bit of planning that goes along with it. So we've been talking a lot about a lot of different products here, and I just want to share some of my favorites with you. So the soil that we use here is called the ProMix BX. The BX does matter. It's the general purpose one. HP is the other version. It's high porosity. That means you're going to be needing to water it more. So this is a little bit more forgiving. As far as it's pretty cheap. You can see the bales. It comes in a 60-pound bale. So you get 60 pounds of soil for $45. I think that's a pretty good deal. Just note that this is a pro mix. So you are going to need to be adding fertilizer to this. I would say fertilize, clear water, and then repeat that cycle if you're using ProMix. If you want something that has a little bit more organic matter, I love the Fox Farm Ocean Forest. This is my potting soil go-to for containers. It just gives you a lot of leeway and you don't have to worry about fertilizing it as much. It's got a lot of those good organic content in it, and there's a lot of nutrition in there. Then lastly, I did want to point out some specific seedling mix for germination. Just going back on that, it is a finer product. The granulars are smaller and it has a higher water holding capacity than your standard potting mix would. So definitely keep an eye out for it. It doesn't necessarily need to be Jiffy brand, just a germination mix is what it's for. So going back to what we're going to use to fertilize, Jack's 20-20-20 is what I use at home. It's a great all-around fertilizer. It's really cheap. It isn't organic, but it is a American made. It's made here in New Jersey. It's a good product. It's the subsidiary of the company that I use for my professional fertilizer for the hydroponic greenhouse. So I really recommend it. It's great stuff. And then I did talk about the water breaker. So this is the water breaker that I really recommend. It's a little expensive, but it's something that is a tool and will really propel you to just have greater success. You can see that there's just so many little holes in there, and it really does a great job at breaking up that water. So definitely keep an eye out for something like that if you're looking for a new water breaker. And then lastly, we got the heat mat. Like I said, you could always just put it on something that's a little bit warm, maybe your computer or maybe your refrigerator. But if you're looking for a specific heating mat, they're about $15 to $20. They last a long time. And the great thing about them is you just plug them in and they work. And then I did want to touch about plastics because there was a lot that I said about plastics. The 10-20 tray you see in the middle, that's just the industry standard. It's what all of the trays get put into. So you see this 72 cell on the right, that will fit into a 10-20 tray. I like 10-20 trays. I think they're really versatile. For seedlings, although a 72 cell might be a better option if you're trying to do a whole bunch of different crops, but in the same area. The paper plots that the Gardener Supply has are really cool. They're not great for the super long-term crops like a tomato or a pepper. They'll kind of deteriorate the longer they're watered, but it is a more sustainable option than the plastics. Then lastly, there are Jiffy seed starting kits. I really like these. I use these personally at home all the time. It comes with your media, it comes with your plastic, it comes with the Humidity Dome. If you're looking for something to just get going, I definitely recommend these. Just make sure you hydrate your little Jiffy peat pots. Probably I would recommend a day before you use them, but definitely if you're not looking to run around and grab a whole bunch of stuff, the Jiffy pots are the way to go. So lastly, I just want to touch on some new varieties that I saw from Johnny's that I was really excited about. Griselet is a French melon. It's a heirloom hybrid, and it has excellent disease resistance. Melons grow pretty well out here in Colorado, so if you're looking for something new, definitely check out that. Green Bee is another one from Johnny's. What's cool about this is it's a little bit of a hardier tomato in that it's going to stand up for roasting or throwing on the grill. It's also a very beautiful cherry tomato. It is an heirloom hybrid as well, but it will definitely draw some attention. It definitely got my attention. And then the last one I want to touch on, this isn't new for 2021, but it's one of my favorite basils that's been on the market for about 2 years. And it's called Newton basil. And what's great about this is it's a fast growing, it has flavors similar to a Genovese basil, but they've actually bred the licorice or the anise taste out of that. So you're left with a really concentrated basil flavor. So if the black licorice aftertaste of a Genovese has been off-putting, definitely look into Newton. And then lastly, the leaves are not cupped, they're flat. So finding and scouting for bugs and making sure that they're free of pests is a lot easier. So that's all I have for the presentation. I did want to leave some time for the Q&A, but I also want to remind you that we're going to be doing this again next month at 1 p.m. on Thursday, April 15th, and we're going to cover more about, so we've got our seeds and our seedlings started. What are we going to do for the rest of the season? And we're going to give you some tips and tricks to master your garden. So we'll turn it over to the Q&A. Stop sharing my screen. And we can take some of those questions. And then I also do want to say, it doesn't have to be questions related to what we're talking about here. If you have any plant related questions, throw them at me.
Alex, I just have to say that this was amazing. You have so much more knowledge than I ever even imagined. So thank you so much for sharing all of that. There were a couple questions that came in while you were talking, so I wanted to get back to those. There were some questions about your lighting that you were talking about at the beginning. So someone asked how you feel about white, normal to slightly warm LED lights for your seedlings.
I actually have some warm LEDs under, like, for my bar at my house, like bar lights kind of thing. And I think those would work. The only thing is, just remember, LEDs aren't going to give you the heat. So you might want to, I don't know, I'm always for T5s. I think they're a great option. They're going to give you a better spread than LEDs will too.
Great. The next question that came in was when you were talking about using vinegar to kill weeds, does that work on bindweed? And I love this question because we all have issues with bindweed in Colorado.
You know, I haven't specifically tried it on that, but I also haven't found anything that will stand up against it. So one little trick I didn't mention is sometimes I use a surfactant or a spreader sticker. I'm not sure how easy those are to get on the consumer side, because I always just grab some from the cabinet kind of thing. But if you can find something, you're basically looking for something to break the surface tension and spread that vinegar across the leaf. That will give you great coverage. And definitely do it early in the morning because you want that sunlight. The sun is what's gonna really stick it to it. So yeah, and you might also want to pull out the weeds, or not the weeds, the roots after the vinegar has taken effect, because it won't really do much for the roots.
Great. So Katrina has a question. She said, for the last several years, halfway through the summer, all the leaves on her plants, with the exception of peppers, turn white, and the plant slowly dies, significantly limiting crop production. Do you know how to prevent that, or what it is?
So a white leaf sounds to me like some sort of mildew. And Colorado is pretty notorious for having powdery mildew. There are organic sprays that I've used. I've had a really good luck with a potassium bicarbonate spray. It's basically it's a baking soda basically. So there are some organic compounds out there that you could spray on there to prevent that. The other thing is I would ask how you're watering your plants. So if you're just overhead watering and you're actually watering on top of the plants, when you do that, that can spread the spores of, if you have just a little bit of downy mildew, that can spread it to your other plants. So you want to water it at the base of the plant. So if you start watering at the base of the plant, you might find that, and not avoid getting it wet, you might find that you have a better success avoiding, because it sounds like you have a foliar disease, and that would be one of the ways I would look into preventing that.
Great. There was another question going back to the vinegar. They asked you, is it just pure vinegar, or do you do 50% vinegar, 50% water?
You can do 50-50. I guess it just, for me, it's always like, how much vinegar do I have around? I wouldn't go anything less than 50-50. Let's just put it that way. I personally like using straight vinegar. I think it packs more of a kick. But if you only have like a little bottle left and you don't have too many weeds, go for a 50-50 solution. It'll work.
Great. There's a question about where to set up the garden. Sun, shade, partial shade. Do you have advice on that?
So I think it kind of comes back to what you're planning on growing. If you're looking to grow a lot of like greens and stuff, you can do it in the shade. If you're looking to grow like cucurbits or tomatoes or something that requires higher light, definitely put it in the full sun. I will say it's easier to shade something than it is to get more sun on it. So if you're kind of like, I don't really know which way to go, I would go with full sun, because you can always get like a shade cloth to drape over your garden if you find you're running into too much sun.
That's a great point. The next question is, I always run into trouble hardening off my seedling transplants. Do you have a process that you recommend?
So I do recommend the kind of like the little tunnels that I showed you guys with the hoops with a medium weight ground cover. That'll really help with hardening them off. And a lot of times, like, I know wind whip is a real serious thing out here, and that can be really detrimental. That coupled with like Colorado's dry in general, so it's just sucking the moisture out of it and the plants will get really unhappy. So I would do like a hoop tunnel with a medium weight ground cover on it, and that should really help you harden off the plants. And it is hard to figure out that special time, like, you know, when in Colorado can you actually plant? It's always a tricky one. So having that ground cover will definitely give you a little bit more protection. Yeah.
Great. There's a question in here about the tower gardens. So a tower garden itself is very expensive. So they asked if you has a deal with a distributor, is there a way to get a discount, or do you have any advice about where to get a tower garden?
So unfortunately, we don't have any affiliation with Tower Garden. We're simply using their products. I would agree with you that they're pretty expensive, and honestly, you could probably make one with some PVC and a really hot iron and a weekend. So it's really, I don't have any sort of links or affiliation with them to give you. I wish I did. There are probably cheaper options out there though.
Great. The next question is about the New Jersey fertilizer. Do you recommend that for indoor plants and foliage as well as outside?
Absolutely, yeah. I use those for my house plants as well. Like literally any plant that's in my house that is not a cactus gets this fertilizer. It's good stuff. And it's a 20-20-20 fertilizer, so it's fairly well balanced, and it will, you will notice a difference between using it and not using it.
Great. The next question is about a specific insect. So what is your advice about what to do about the cucumber beetles, both the striped and spotted? They said that they have both and they come back every year. Those
are hard, yeah. You could also look into biological predators. A lacewing larva, they destroy everything. You could also use ladybugs. You can also use the ground cover. It is a physical barrier between the plant and the outside world. So I wouldn't want to use it all season, but I think you can get up to a point where the plant should be able to fight back with some of those. But those are a hard one to get. Another piece of advice is even with aphids, and I've had some luck with the beetles that you're talking about, is just spraying them off and drowning them basically. Aphids have a natural reflex that if they're disturbed, like the leaves are disturbed, they just drop. So you can kind of trick the bugs into that sort of a response with just some water. But those are a hard one too. Yeah.
Interesting. Someone asked if you do tours of the greenhouse for staff on campus. Is that something that you guys do?
So our greenhouse is currently closed right now. We do normally do greenhouse tours, absolutely. So when we're up and running, definitely shoot me an email and I'm happy to give you guys a tour. Absolutely.
Awesome. Someone asked, will the potassium bicarb also help with black rot on roses?
Let me check. I'm not entirely sure. I know it's specifically rated for powdery mildew. I would have to get back to you on black rot on that. Yeah.
Okay, we'll follow up on that one. The next question is, when I direct seed, I plant and then water. Should I water first to get the soil next to the seed moist?
You can if you want to. It might make it a little messy if you're kneeling next to it, getting dirty, but if you don't mind getting muddy, I would say absolutely.
Great. What time of year should we be planting our seedlings in the garden outside?
So that's always a tricky one in Colorado. The kind of gold standard has always been Mother's Day. That's usually, late enough in the season that you've gone past those scary weather events, but early enough that you're still capitalizing on an early-ish growing season. So I would say in Colorado, look towards the end of May. It's hard to really give you an exact date because the seasons, like we could have a really modest spring, or we could have crazy hailstorms through June. I don't really know.
Oh, Colorado, that's how it goes. The next question is about Colorado sun. So if you see something in a plant catalog that's full sun, do we make adjustments for Colorado since our sun is so intense?
I wouldn't. Most plants that are full sun, I mean, you can kind of cook them. I would say go for it. And if it does, that's an easy fix too, is not full sun. I would say, yeah, if it says full sun, go for it. Just make sure you're watering it, because full sun, it will dry down a little bit quicker than the shaded area will.
Great. This person would like you to talk more about lacewings, praying mantises, and ladybugs. Is it wise to try to introduce a small population of these kinds of insects into your garden each year?
So running a successful bio program is very hard. But I'll give you some tips and tricks. So one of the reasons I really like lacewings versus like ladybugs or really any other predator is lacewing larvae are voracious. They will eat anything that fits in their mouth, including their brothers and sisters. So like when I get them, they'll only ship them in quantities of 100 because they're so carnivorous. So the one thing that I've found success with bio programs is you kind of do have to be on top of it. It's not just necessarily a one-time application that's going to get you through the season. And you want to do this proactively. If you come and you find that you have an aphid outbreak, the chances of you successfully beating that outbreak down with these biologicals are very low. But if, like you said, you want to introduce some, I would introduce them. I guess a home consumer would probably want to do them at a rate of like one introduction per month kind of thing. The other thing to think about too is I'm in a greenhouse where we have walls and I can kind of keep them in more or less. But in a garden, you don't. So the other thing to kind of keep in mind, and why I'm pushing pollination in your garden, is you want to have another food source for those bugs to go to in the event that they extinguish all of their prey. So you can do lacewings are great. The one thing about ladybugs is the life cycle that you want is the larva. So traditionally you just get like a box of adult lady beetles, and that's great, but just realize that they're going to have to mate, they're going to have to lay eggs, those eggs are going to hatch, and then those larvae are going to have to start eating before they even start taking control of the problem. Whereas lacewing larvae, they're ready to go, they're ready to eat as soon as you let them out. They're a good, it works well in Colorado. I've had good success. How do I get them? Specifically here in Colorado, there's a shop in Broomfield called Acme Hydroponics. They're a great, it's just a mom and pop hydroponic store, but they work with a company called Tip Top Bio, and that's who I get my bugs from.
Awesome. There's a couple more questions about pests, and we're running out of time, so we'll get to these last few questions that are in the chat, and then we'll have to wrap up the session. But one of the questions was, how do you combat earwigs, grasshoppers, and Japanese beetles?
Japanese beetles are hard. I would use a pheromone trap away from your crops. That's the easiest way to get rid of them, because they'll just be attracted to that instead of your crops. Earwigs are a tricky one because they're also a natural predator too. So I'm not too worried about earwigs. They're more aesthetically displeasing than actually doing harm to your crop. And then what was the last one? It was grasshoppers.
Yes.
Yeah, those can be hard, especially like the hornworms or some stuff like that. A physical barrier is good with the remay, or yeah, grasshoppers are a tricky one because they're not something that I come across a lot in the greenhouse. I don't have a whole lot of experience dealing with them. The closest predator I had was like a hornworm on a tomatoes, and that was just setting up some stuff for some birds to come and pick them off. So I'm sorry, I don't have a whole lot of help for grasshoppers on this one.
So the last question that's in here was the water holding crystals that you were talking about. They had heard that they could potentially be bad for the environment. And can you talk a little bit more about using these inside versus outside, or both?
My experience with them was with, I was introduced to them while I was working in conservation. So we were doing some vegetation rehabilitation. So we were using this in an area that was ecologically sensitive. So the stuff that we're using, it was just like a polymer based crystal. So it was synthetic, but I don't believe that it had the same, it wasn't gonna like leach like a plastic would. So I wouldn't feel any hesitation to use them inside with my houseplants or anything like that. I don't know, just don't drink the water that comes out of the bottom, and I think it'll be good.
Awesome. That's all we have time for. There weren't any more questions, so I think we'll wrap up for the day. Thank you so much, Alex. This was super helpful, and I
Awesome.
hope everybody can join us for the next session. Thanks for joining us for this one.